Okay, I'd like to call the Budget Review Committee to order. It's May 20th, 25. The meeting's being held in the Aldermanic Chamber, and it's been duly noted in two places, including the city's website, in accordance with the requirements of RSA 91-A:22. The clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Tim Senate.
Here.
Alderman Derek Theobald.
Here.
Alderman John Sullivan.
I'm here on Zoom as I'm traveling for business. I hope you can hear me and I can hear you. I'm alone in the room, and thank you.
We can hear you.
Okay. Alderwoman at Large, Shoshana Kelly.
I'm here.
Alderman at Large, Laurie Wilshire.
Here.
Alderman at Large, Michael B. O'Brien Sr. is present. And our chairman, Alderman Richard Dowd.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 members present. Also in attendance is Alderman Clee and Alderman Lopez. Also in attendance is His Honor the Mayor, James Donchis, and CFO, John Griffin.
And the treasurer?
Yes. Also, Don Enright's with us. Okay.
And several department heads.
Yeah, there's several department heads, but if they come up to speak, I'll record them on the docket.
Okay, first item on the...
Point of order.
Excuse me?
I just wanted to know if Alderman Sullivan was joining us from stateside or if he's still remotely in a foreign country. I believe we passed an ordinance that you couldn't attend remotely if you were in a foreign country.
I think we killed that ordinance.
Did it pass? I thought it did.
It passed, so
I don't think it
I think
passed.
anybody with a VPN could make it up.
I do remember having that conversation. I don't remember whether or not we passed it.
I don't remember either.
I don't think it passed.
It didn't pass.
You don't think it passed? Okay.
Okay.
But yes,
Pretty sure
Alderman
it's
Sullivan is on by
on.
Zoom, and I
It's not on the
believe
book?
he's
Okay.
out of the country. Okay, first item is public comment. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on public comment on anything happening this evening? Seeing none. Communications,
There are none.
there are none, but the mayor wishes to open the meeting with a statement, so this is probably as good a place as any. Mayor, would you like to?
Yes, Mr. Chair. First, I want to thank the members of the Budget Committee for your time and focus on the city budget. I've served on the Budget Committee in the past as a member of the Board of Aldermen, and it is a rigorous task, and so I really appreciate your dedication. And, of course, I want to thank the directors for coming tonight, who we asked to be available to answer any questions you have regarding their respective areas of the budget. But, Mr. Chairman, I thought I would take a few minutes just to go over kind of an overview of the budget and some of my thoughts given some of the discussions that have occurred. And, of course, I can answer any questions which you have at that point. But as you know and you've heard, and as you've seen in the booklet, the overall budget is as proposed, is $360 million. $500 million, $50 million for the enterprise funds, which include the wastewater fund and the solid waste fund. At the beginning of the budget process, we asked the various departments to come in at 3% for their operating budget, excluding items over which they have no real control. And really all departments made that guideline, which of course I greatly appreciate, because this year we face some extraordinary challenges, which I will mention in a moment. But the departments worked hard, and another guideline was no new positions, and they also met that. Requirement. Now, the significant non-controllable items that I mentioned, and they're considerable when you add them up as we face them this year. First of all, medical insurance is projected to increase by 9.6%, or $3.9 million. a very large increase, but smaller than some other municipalities. Manchester's proposed raise is higher than that. The school department was hit by the monopoly of First Student with respect to the busing and the student transportation. The increase they were faced with was a $1.7 million increase, or 18%, more than an 18% increase. There was only one bidder for that contract, and the school department really had no option, having a legal obligation to provide these services, no option but to accept the contract which was proposed to them. There was a change made with respect to workers' comp laws, which is designed to properly treat cancer cases within the fire service. Previously, a firefighter had to prove that were he or she to contract cancer, that was somehow related to work. There's now a legal presumption supported by scientific research, which the presumption being that if a firefighter contracts cancer, that it is work-related, which will help the families and victims of this disease, but will impact the workers' comp budget. We estimate for an increase of $1.2 million. We had decided to, for a number of years, for numerous years, we had funded the equipment purchases that the city makes, called the Capital Equipment Reserve Fund, out of the surplus that is derived at the end of the year. We had been funding that, and that's usually around $5 million out of the surplus. But some members of the Board of Aldermen argued that it made more sense to put that in the budget rather than to wait for the surplus. That, as a budget point, is certainly a good point, although it will result in year one and year two in a tax increase. We did not have any money for equipment purchase in last year's budget, and instead of funding it out of the surplus which we derived last fall, that was not done, and so we really need now to put SURF into the budget for the first time. So we have proposed a 2-year step-in, so that's a $2.5 million item that was in this budget that was not in the last. So now we're up to around nearly $10 million of special items, uncontrollable items, I'm saying. And then recently we were notified by the county executive, and if anybody, this is the Hillsborough County Executive, if anyone questions this, I'll be glad to send you the communication. But the county commissioners, the 3 county commissioners, have proposed a county tax increase of 23%, or 22.9, which for Nashua, and we fund about a quarter of the county tax, that means a $3.2 million increase, increasing the county tax from somewhere around $12 to $13 million up to up by 3.2 million. So when you put all those together, we're way over $10 million of these large, I'm going to say, these large extraordinary items. Now, John Griffin, CFO, is going to show you a projected tax increase, just so you know what you're dealing with. But with all these extraordinary items, we are looking at a tax increase of, and he will show you, 6%. Now, without these items, it would be, below 2. But with these items and a 1% on the tax increases, 1% tax increase is equivalent to $2.5 million. So to reduce the budget very significantly, 75% of which is benefits and wages, you need to cut $2.5 million for every percent of tax increase. And the only way really to get significant increases, as I've mentioned before, is reductions in personnel, which certainly I'm not advocating. The one item here that is a bit of a wild card is the county tax increase. We will be going, doesn't become final until it is adopted by the county delegation. County delegation consists of the members of the legislature from the Hillsborough County. So we will be, in the past, the commissioners have proposed something similar, and the delegation reduced it considerably. So we will be looking to them to hopefully do that again. But all we have right now is the communication from the county indicating that this is the level of increase that has been proposed by the commissioners. The delegation will be considering their budget in June, so we'll see, and we'll try to get that number down. So hopefully that will happen. And so without that, then of course the city increase would not, the total increase would not be as high as 6%. But I wanted to, Mr. Chairman, just mention a few things given the discussion that we've heard. I know that you're looking for as many savings as you can find, which is great. And there's been particular attention on consulting services or contracted services or and those kind of items. Other consulting services, there are various names for these things. As you're examining, I just ask you to please be careful, because some of these we would be in dire straits without. For example, Whitney Consulting provides the services in the assessing department and provides the assessing manager, Bob Gagney, formerly of the City of Manchester. Without that contract, the assessing function would collapse, and in addition, we would have to hire people or try to hire people to do what the consultant is now doing. In community development, we have a services contract with First Transit. They operate the bus system. So if that were cut, I'm not saying you're thinking about that, but I'm just saying some of these things are vital. If they were cut, we couldn't operate the bus system. There's another contract with Essex Power. I think that's called a consultant, or it may have a different name, but Essex Power operates the dams. In the administrative services area, there have been some consulting lines in the past, but when the asphalt plant came along, what do you think we used to fund appraisals and lawyers to fight the asphalt plant? Consulting services, administrative services. So be careful, that's all I'm saying. Another area that I think we need to be careful about is giving extraordinary raises to any top-level city employees. The structure that's been in place for a long time has been the highest paid employee in the city is the school superintendent, then the police chief, then the fire chief, and then the CFO and the public works director, and then on down from there. Now, if we take someone from any of those categories and give them raises, especially large raises, everyone on that list and on down a long way is going to be looking for the same thing. Could result in hundreds of thousands of dollars. I can tell you that, there's no way that, well, some of these departments have made it very clear that if someone that has been below them gets a big raise, then they're going to raise too. And I think we really, in a situation like this, we cannot afford to, and out of fairness, we would have to do it. So in the situation like this, I don't think we can afford to really open ourselves to having to fund hundreds of thousands of dollars of raises for top-level employees. There is a salary study pending, which of course suggests the possibility. This has been discussed with personnel a few times, I understand, Personnel Committee. There is a salary study that has looked at what could be paid to various employees, unaffiliated employees, and the increase, if you want to fully fund that, I mean, this is the kind of magnitude we're talking about, $700,000 a year. So be careful with raises. It will escalate, it will spread, and in the end, we'll be faced with raising money for, providing significant raises for a lot of people. Now, with all that, I'm available if you have any questions, comments, or if you disagree with me in any way, please speak up. I do want, though, to say, even though I have given you my point of view, I understand that budget making is a difficult exercise. Trying to balance the need, what each person, each alderman, the mayor, each alderman, I don't even have a vote, each alderman considers to be important in terms of providing city services and vital city services to the residents against the cost of those services. And reasonable people, I've often said this, reasonable people can differ regarding exactly how the budget should be handled. So a disagreement with me is simply a disagreement, and we'll still be friends. I've been an alderman. I mean, I understand your responsibility, and I know that everyone here is trying to do the best they can for the residents and taxpayers of the city of Nashua. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I will, if anyone has questions or thoughts, I'm here to take them.
Does anyone have any questions for the mayor? Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in talking about the raise situation, so we know that we've had these conversations over the last few years about the leaders of the fire department, and I think we made some form of appropriation last year or the year before to give them some raise money, and I don't think they've gotten it yet. And there's also, it's cut out of the budget for this year as well. Are they, as leaders, far below police and the other leaders of the city? Because what I would want to do there is not to give something to somebody that makes them higher than other departments, but I want them also to get what they deserve and where they should actually be. So are they far and below the other leaders of the city?
No. Now, the reason of course, you did appropriate money for it last year, but I think the chair pointed out then that, but providing that there was money there, but providing the wages, it requires an ordinance change, which was never made. So, nothing ever happened. I mean, all these people do a really good job. I mean, in a way, it's difficult for me even to get into this because I respect these people. They're incredibly dedicated, and they do a really good job for the city. The fire chief makes a little bit less than the police chief, but the police commissioners have made it very, very clear. The police chief makes more than the fire chief, period. And if the fire chief gets a $25,000 or $30,000 raise, so does the police chief. And other directors have already spoken to me. If the aldermen start giving raises, hypothetically, I'm the director of X, down in Massachusetts, I could make 50,000 more. So if you give someone on this list a $30,000, $20,000, $10,000 raise, I want the same thing. So, and then, now, the fire department, in all fairness to them, is trying to deal with a situation that I'm not sure we can correct. But the situation they're trying to deal with is that the deputies who make a base pay of $120,000 to $130,000, I believe, get overtime. So they, in essence, make $160,000 or so, which is nearly what the chief makes and is more than what the assistant chiefs make. But it's because of the decision that, and this is a long-standing practice, so fine, they get overtime. So what the commissioners are concerned about, and they can explain this to you directly, so I don't want to make it seem like they're just being arbitrary. They're not, I mean, they're trying to deal with but a difficult situation, but so are we. Because what they do has broader implications. What they're trying to deal with, the fact of the assistant says, well, look, I mean, my subordinate makes more than I do because of the overtime. On the other hand, they've never had a situation where they couldn't find an assistant. Assistant makes, I'm not sure. I believe the chief makes around 170 or a little bit more, I believe. Maybe closer to 175. The assistants make less. The deputies make, as I said, 120 to 130 base pay, but they get overtime, and the assistants do not, and the chief does not. So the overtime pushes them above the assistants. But as overall city leaders, I'm advocating that we have to look at the whole picture, which is that if we give the brass in the fire department a raise, we got to do it for the police. And if we do it for the police and the fire, we got to do it for public works. And if we do it for public works, what about the city attorney? What about the administrative services director? What about the people who work for them? If the boss gets a $30,000 raise, what do you mean? What about me? I mean, I'm directly below that boss. So what about me? So it will, it will have a lot of ripples, and that's all I'm saying. I mean, we're not in a great position. The fire department does a great job. They have a point. We've discussed with them taking them out of the salary grid that they're currently in and trying to set up an independent system as the police department has, so they're not tied to an ordinance. Maybe, I think we should do that and maybe do something in the middle, with more deliberation and discussion of handling all of the city employees at the same time, maybe partially implement this salary study. But I just don't believe that can be done willy-nilly without an overall look at the situation. There is the salary study, and probably the budget has delayed its detailed discussion, but it's there, and Mr. Cummings is very willing and able to discuss all of its implications with the Budget Committee.
Just quick follow-up. Yeah, so if we made this motion to give them the $89,000 back tonight and it passed, would that go directly to them, or would it still be kind of in that holding pattern, not being able to be given to them until there's an ordinance?
They cannot get it unless there's an ordinance change.
Okay, so passing it wouldn't make a difference tonight necessarily?
No, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
But again, I respect these people a lot, and I know you do as well. I know they do a great job for the city. Everybody, probably everyone deserves to make more money. It's just that, I've explained it, you understand it.
Thank you.
Alderman Kelly?
Thank you. I know that some of the aldermen wanted to see that the supplementals that we usually do after the fact were included in the budget book, so I wanted to ask what that did to the percentage increase on the budget.
Excuse me, John Griffin, CFO. I think the question was, and correct me if I'm wrong, we've increased the budget approximately 20 million over last year's budget of 340 million that didn't include any of the supplementals. So if you take the supplementals and add it to the 340, the difference between that number and 360 is going to be a small number, and it's going to be about 2.7% increase, as opposed to a 5.84% increase.
Because there were supplementals in fiscal '25, which have not yet been, and there were supplementals in '24. So sometimes there's not an apples-to-apples comparison, because if you compare a budget without the supplementals to one that has them, it looks distorted in some way.
So if I could follow up, just to clarify, what you're saying is, had we done the budget the way we did it last year with supplementals outside of it, it would only be a 2.7 increase? Is that what you said?
Not sure of the exact percentages, but
Around there?
if we took the 340 million minus the 317, you'd get about a 7.17% increase. Because we included the supplementals, which there is an argument for, because we supplemented the budget, it was a less amount.
Okay.
So what we did, as the mayor and I and the team worked on, we included in the budget book what we just described, the 360 minus the 340, to get the 5.84, but we also thought it would be a good exercise, which we included on the very bottom. There was an alternative which added the supplementals into the 340 budget minus the 360. It was about 2.36. I would say that as we move forward over time, we're putting a lot of things, in, as the mayor indicated, in this particular budget, such as SURF, 2.5 million. We could have just as well put another supplemental appropriation in, but we decided it was important to include it in the budget. And there should be, barring any unforeseen circumstances, very little supplementals in fiscal '26 other than supplementally appropriating unforeseen revenue that comes into the city, such as the opioid. It's not unforeseen, but it's not budgeted, the opioid monies that we get from the state. Thank you.
Other questions from the mayor? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. If you have any more questions for me later, I'm available by phone or whatever. Thank you very much.
Okay,
First Snapchat.
next item is unfinished business.
There is none.
New business resolutions,
There are none.
new business ordinances.
There are none.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion to remove from the table R-25-143 is the pending fiscal year 2026 city budget.
By roll call.
By roll call.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Tim Senate,
Yes.
Alderman Derek Theobald,
Yes.
Alderman John Sullivan,
Yes.
Alderwoman at Large Shoshana Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Laurie Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Michael O'Brien Sr. votes yes, and our chairman, Alderman Richard A. Dowd.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries, sir.
Motion carries, and R-25-143 is now on the table. Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you.
Off the table.
Mr. Chairman, I would now like to make a motion to approve R-25-143, which is the pending fiscal year budget 2026, and to recommend it for final passage.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to recommend final passage to the full Board of Aldermen of the FY 2026 budget as presented by the mayor and legislation R-25/143. So that's the motion on the floor, and we'll open it up for discussion. Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you. I would like to go to page 83, Public Health and Community Services, under 171-51100. I would like to add $120,000. And then accounting for those fringe benefits, I would like to add 52100, $9,180. 52150, pension expense of $15,300, and 52300, benefits $32,570.
Ms. Enright, would you like to come up and join us?
We're starting off hot. I'll talk to my motion while she joins us. So this is, I think every budget has a narrative. I think for me, this budget season, public health has done an incredible amount of work. We know homelessness is up. They've been doing the warming shelter, and they, lost half of their community health workers. So this would restore 2 of their community health workers in full. And the amounts for the benefits are an estimate, but they're that worst case scenario, full family, whatever, just to have us covered there.
Okay, you've heard the motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on the motion? Alderman Tebow?
How much was it total, please?
107. Wow, why can't I speak? $177,050.
Thank you.
That's for 2 community health workers. Yes.
Again, just want my clarification. I thought when Dr. Bagley was here, they were only looking for 1.
It's kind of complicated. They have, what I wrote from our notes was that they had 8 and they're down to 4. There were 2 that were restored through the opioid abatement that we passed a couple of months ago. And I know that they'll be going to get those continued, brought up to complement, hopefully, with that abatement. But technically, she's down 2 full. Correct? Yeah, not.
Dr. Bagley, would they come up and give us guidance on that motion?
Yes, good evening, Director Bagley for Division of Public Health and Community Services. So what Alderwoman Kelly is presenting is correct. So in the city budget, the funding under the general fund, there's 1 community health worker position that is lost. And then also under the grants that we get funded that weren't discussed in our presentation, there were 4 grant-funded positions that were lost, 2 of which we were able to maintain until June 30th because of the request that was put forth to use opioid abatement funds to cover that staff until June 30th. The plan is to write another proposal to the mayor to sustain those 2 individuals under the opioid abatement funds, which would still leave us down 2 community health workers. So the proposal is to restore 2, 1 that was lost under the city budget and 1 that would have been lost under the grant funding.
Any questions for Director Bagley? Alderman Tebow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This might be for Director Griffin or Treasurer Enright. Is there any other department that has actually lost positions outside of the 2 from community health?
John Griffin, CFO. It's my understanding this was the only department
Okay. Thank you.
in the city. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Alderman O'Brien?
Yeah, I just want to, so I can get this perfectly scribed.
Sorry.
Alderman Kelly, what page did you refer to?
83.
Page 83. Don't go anywhere, I got more
got you.
questions for you. And what is the line item description?
It is wages full-time, 51100. Well, there's 4 of them.
And what is that number again?
120,000. 60 each.
120?
Mhm.
Okay. And what is the line on, what's this municipal number again?
The fringe benefits,
No, you said the number on the account.
51100.
51100. Okay, very good.
And you got the fringe stuff. You're all set with benefits. Okay.
Any other
Two other
discussion?
accounts.
Any other discussion?
There were 2 other accounts.
There were 3 other accounts.
There are 3 other accounts. You want those 2?
Yeah, I want those. two.
Sorry. Same page, page 83.
Yeah,
52100, that's FICA Medicaid. And that figure is 9,180.
okay, got that.
Next line, 52150, that's a pension expense, 15,300.
Okay, what page is the same page?
Same page. We're going right down the line. And then 52300 benefits, 32,570.
Okay, I'm still on the third one, page 83.
Mhm.
And how much was that?
5211.
5211,
52150.
oh, that was
I get the
15,000.
9,108.
Okay, gotcha. 15,300 on pension expense.
50,300.
15.
1-5.
50,000.
Oh.
15.
1,
Oh,
5.
15. Okay, thank you.
This is
It's
what
like
it was
more than the
designed.
salary.
You gotta go s-
Okay, I'm happy to.
15 what?
300.
15,300. Okay.
Are finance people all set on that motion?
And there's one more line.
Okay, give me the one more, please.
52300 benefits.
Okay, and how much is that?
32,570.
517?
70.
70.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Mr. Griffin, do you know how much that increases the tax rate?
If we took, Mr. Chairman, if we took 177,050 and divided it by 2.5 million, that would be the increase.
Which is far less than 1.
But while you asked that, Mr. Chairman, the mayor did mention the tax rate, and he and I and the team feel that it's probably a good idea to let you folks know what we're looking at. I don't have an exhibit, but I can speak to it. So we came before the Budget Review Committee on February 10th of this year. We talked about a 3.5% increase net of benefits. It was determined by you folks that that was probably a little bit too much. So we went back, and as the mayor indicated, we were successful having most of the, or all of the operating units in the city coming in around 3%. The numbers on the mayor's slide, we kind of knew about the first 4 that would have given us an increase in the tax rate of 5%. But when we learned of the potential increase for the county, it's a little bit over 6%. So what you picture is the mayor's budget as proposed, right now, all things being equal, is about a 6% tax increase. Anything added adds to that, as Mr. Chairman asked me, and anything reduced lowers that tax rate. We're going to do everything possible, as we usually do, by analyzing surplus, applying surplus to the tax rate. I put in a placeholder of $6 million against the tax rate this year. And as Ms. Enright and I reported to you in our Budget Review Committee meeting, we'll hope to make all of that up with revenue and not expenses, not appropriations not expended. What I mean by that is motor vehicle and interest income are performing well. So the question we ask ourselves is, do we want to go with the 6 million, which we used last year, or increase that? But increasing it just means you're spending one-time revenue on ongoing expenses. So I want to give you kind of a high level. I can certainly put something in writing, but that's generally how we go through the tax rate process. So these are all critical decisions that you're making with regard to that rate. Thank you.
Okay,
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
follow up?
So you say 2.5 is roughly 1%, so if we say we're doing 6 million, what is that effectively? Is that more like 4?
I'm sorry.
If we appropriate the 6 million to buy down the tax rate, is it more like a 4% increase?
No, unfortunately, it would be 8% if you didn't use the 6 million.
Okay. So that's already included?
That's already in the estimate. Thank you.
Okay. I did do the math, it's 0.07%. And I have other motions to cut other places, but starting here, as I was told.
And just briefly, I've heard it a number of times, but if you take too much cash from this year and apply it towards the tax rate, you have a problem next tax year, because you would have to appropriate at least that much and more to stay where you're at. That can be hard sometimes, especially if revenues go down.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Tim Senate.
No.
Alderman Derek Theobald.
Yes.
Alderman John Sullivan.
No.
Alderwoman at Large, Shoshana Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman at Large, Laurie Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman at Large, Michael O'Brien votes yes. And our chairman, Richard A. Dowd.
Yes.
You have 4 yeas and 2 nays.
Motion passes.
I had 5 nays.
5 yeas.
5 yeas, yeah.
5 yeas, excuse me.
Because you got 7 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that if there's any place that really needs the help, it's public health. I'm hesitant because of the number, but we'll go with that. Are there any other motions relative to the budget? Alderman T-Bone?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I make my motion, I just got a couple of things I want to say about the budget. And I also want to apologize to Director Cummings. Last week I was told I was a little harsh on him in the meeting, just trying to hold departments accountable. I was told that I wouldn't get a vote from this person. So I just want to say that, if I came off too harsh, I'm sorry. People elect us to hold departments accountable. I'm someone who's been very supportive of the city departments. You guys all do an amazing job for the city. But at the same time, we all have someone that we need to be accountable for. Everybody here that does anything has somebody that they have to be accountable for. So, but I'm going to, always support you guys. I don't want staff cut. There's been other people who have attacked you from the public, and I've always been there to try to defend you. And so, something I read this week that said, there's 3 fiscal conservatives in this chamber, and 3 more would be able to flip this budget. And I will tell you, these fiscal conservatives supported the candidate against Jim Donchis, Mike Susi. The first thing Mike Susi said that he would do if he was mayor is cut all your departments in half. All of them. And that's really the only way we can get this budget down to any reasonable tax rate this year, is to cut staff. We would have to cut millions of dollars. What we're doing today is going to be little tweaks here and there. And so there is no magic bullet. No one's going to come up with a $15 million cut today that's going to not infect staff in some way. And if we do that, services will be cut in the city, and we will not have the city we have now. So it's important when we look at the budget, we look at it that way, how it impacts services that you guys and your departments do a great job delivering. And I know you guys are short on staff, really. I mean, I look at Parks and Rec, and I'm out there every day wishing the lawn at North Common would be shorter. But I just know people that are short-staffed. As it goes with the fire department, which was going to be my motion tonight, I think the leaders of that department deserve the money that they should be getting and the money that we've appropriated. The one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to create a ripple effect where everybody's trying to gun for them and trying to get over their dollar amount because they get a raise, which I think is terrible. And to the mayor's point, everybody deserves more money. We all deserve more money. We do a lot of work. So I'm not going to make that motion, but one motion I do want to make, and I'm sorry to the fire leaders, and I respect you guys just like the mayor does. I would love to make that motion and try to get you that money appropriated to the, Chief Buxton and his team. I think they deserve it. They really do. But the motion I want to try to make is, since Alderwoman Kelly made a motion to increase the budget, I want to try to decrease it, and you guys can agree with me this or not. But my motion, I want to make a motion, and it's on page 64. Doesn't have a page number, but 64. Under expenses, under professional and technical services, line 53128, legal services. So I look at this, $500,000 we've appropriated for outside legal services to help with, these lawsuits that come at us. We've only used $149,000 this year. And I know there's probably more to come because the year hasn't ended, so I'm assuming there's a little bit more in there. But this is one I feel like if lawsuits that we don't expect come out of the woodwork, that we would look to appropriate more money during the year and come back before us to make that. So I would like to reduce that by $177,050. That's my motion. Exact money
swap that we just
exact
added.
swap, so it comes out even. That's 64 technically.
I want to make sure that our clerk here has all the right info.
So
Lori has her hand up.
63, and then there's no page number on 64.
This is 64.
That's not 60.
No, that's 63.
Thank you.
Property and casualty fund.
53128.
There's no page number on it, but it comes out to 63.
Mr. Chairman, I think I could help.
Yes. Go ahead.
The page that Alderman Tebow is on is kind of the estimates that support the previous page. So what you really want to do is reduce the previous page, which is your appropriation to the Property and Casualty Fund, Internal Service Fund. It's the same way you appropriate money to get the money in the fund. If you're going to reduce that fund, we need to take it from the Board of Aldermen's appropriation to the Property and Casualty Fund. So it'll be on the previous page,
So 63?
63, and you'd reduce that number by the 177,050.
All right, I'll redo the motion for the clerk. So page 63, I want to look at 89650 and take the total amount out of the 8,909,447. I want to take out $177,050.
Dr. Cummings, did you want to comment?
Well, first is, How much money?
Yeah, go ahead, you can sit there.
$177,050.
Yes, for the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Administrative Services. So as I understand it, there's an amendment before you to reduce the legal services line item 53128 by $177,000.
It was amended.
And 50. And so with that being said, to provide just a little context, for the record, I think that's fine if you want to do that this evening, with the understanding that we may need to come back before you and supplementally appropriate. We do not have a crystal ball. As of right now, we seem to be trending in a good direction. I say that with the caveat of last week's, there was a meeting that could potentially end up in some litigation, and we're aware of that. But we do have a big trial coming up in June, which this $500,000 that was appropriated last year is going to use. I think if we continue the trend that we're on, we should be able to live with that $177,000 reduction. So I would support that this evening, but understanding that as the situation evolves, we may back before you, and that may affect the spending cap and the cap, and I don't want to get caught up in that conversation. So I want to flag that for you, that you're aware of that, so you're comfortable. We would be increasing the cap for next year if we did do a supplemental appropriation. Thank you.
Questions for Director Cummings while he's standing here? Oh, all set, thanks. Thank you. Alderman Wiltshire?
Yeah, can you tell me what we've spent out of that account? This was just through March 31st.
Right.
I'd have to look it up.
Thank you.
Alderman Tebow?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that this was one of the reasons I voted, I guess as enthusiastically as I would, on the health worker, because I was planning on trying to reduce that money anyway, so that would be an even split, because I was going to do something different with it, but thought that would be the better approach right now.
Alderman Senate?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can support this. I did vote against Alderwoman Kelly's motion, and that certainly was not a vote meant to undermine the work of community or public health. I hope that anybody who actually follows the going-ons in this chamber recognizes that, in particular from me. The only reason I voted against it was because I had motions in mind to correct one. Alderwoman Kelly took the ball and ran with it even further, and I applaud her for that work. She got a much more finite number than I did. I'm happy to say that when I divided it by 2, we were pretty darn close. So I still have some motions that I intended to throw against offsetting that, but I'm happy that Alderman Tebow has beat me to the punch in that respect, too. So I can vote for this.
Yeah, any of the votes that we take in budget season are very tough. It's hard to make decisions, and sometimes you're very close either way, and it's certainly not derogatory to anybody in particular or any department or division.
I still hate watching my cookies crumble.
Alderman Tebow?
Thank you. And I would be happy if Alderman Senate feels like he has other cuts that could be put towards this and could make an amendment to reduce this, like saying, let's make it $150,000 instead, and I will, move to make motions to cut maybe 2 other items that are less important than maybe this money might be. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know if he does or has some things that he would think are easy to get past tonight, that where if he wants to amend it, feel free to.
I wouldn't say easy.
Just because, I took the whole thing, but I'm certainly willing to take it from other areas if there's areas you think would be better served to take it from.
We can make any motions. We're going to try and keep the clerk's job
I appreciate
without going crazy.
Think of the transcriber, too.
Yeah, the other point I want to make is that if any line in the budget is increased, and we've already increased it 1, it's going to require 10 votes no matter what happens. I mean, even if you make it even or go below, if you've increased any one line, it's 10 votes at the full board meeting. Okay? Alderman Lopez.
I just wanted to comment because I was kind of staying quiet with Alderman Kelly's initial proposal. I am impressed that, number one, it was delivered so exactly to where it needed to go. And then additionally, I'm grateful that the board supported it. I think it's important to remember how much work sometimes it takes some departments to get to the point that they are at. I mean, a couple of years ago, we were struggling with huge encampments that were, publicly impacting a number of different areas and city departments, and it was costing us. And we've slowly, well, we meaning Director Bagley and her team, have slowly assembled people who are trained, who are connected with the community, who have the trust of the people that they're serving and the partnerships that they need to start pushing back and effectively placing people who are homeless. We know from common study that it's much more difficult to get somebody into housing after they become homeless than before they enter into it. And this is the point where we never want to be at a city, with people who are living unsheltered, have severe mental health, medical, and substance abuse challenges. And we have people who can do something about it. And that is, dare I say it, priceless to business owners and to property owners, because it is terrible that we're going to have to look at another increase in the tax rate. But the tax rate is a consideration that is secondary when you have people who are living on your property or affecting your neighborhood. That's where it starts to stray into life safety. That's where the police and the fire are involved. So I just want to applaud this committee for recognizing that we need public health workers, and to just point out that where we're trying to save money, we don't want to let the horse out of the stable. Like, we want to make sure that programs that are essential to our city's operations, that have taken years to develop, are being recognized as such. Because sometimes, it was already pointed out earlier, we don't want to solve an expense this year and create one for years to come. That's not being fiscally conservative.
Okay, I don't want to limit your comments, but that's on the previous motion that already passed. The one now is to offset that. So, all right. So the motion on the floor is to reduce, which line?
89650.
By $177,050. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman Theobald.
Yes.
Alderman Sennett.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes yes. Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
You have 1, 2,
You didn't call my name.
Excuse me.
6 yeas, 0 nays.
You missed somebody.
Missed Alderman Kelly.
Oh, do you want to vote?
Please, yes.
I was going to say,
please vote?
that's somebody got missed.
You vote yay?
I
Thank
vote
you.
yay.
And my apologies.
All good.
Any other motions on the budget this evening? Alderman Sennett.
Oh, let's upset
I have
some
like the-
people. All right, so I am going to turn our attention, as likely predicted, to page 58. We are under Human Resources. I am looking at line number 53142, which is Consulting Services. And I would like to make a motion to reduce this line by $50,000, and I'd like to speak to it if I could.
Go ahead and speak to it.
Thank you. So I know I asked a lot of questions about consulting services, and I just wanted to get a vague idea of what was planned for those for the coming year. I know the mayor spoke to this a little bit in advance. I'm happy to say that at least 2 of the 3 departments that he had mentioned, assessing and community development, I had no anticipation of making any cuts to their services. However, there were very few specifics from our meeting with administrative services in regard to HR. However, there was a desire to push forward with an HR audit, if that could be approved by the Finance Committee. I know that recently the Finance Committee voted that down for this term. However, I'd like to leave that on the table, so that is why I'm not going as far as I could potentially but still leaving them with the $75,000 that HR audit is anticipated to cost for the year. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Director Cummings, did you want to make any comments on that or not?
Certainly, again, Tim Cummings, Director of Administrative Services. I defer to the body on what you'd wish to do here. I would caution you, though, that if you do this, there would be some potential service reductions, and we might not be able to provide the level of service that you may be looking for. And so I would just ask that you keep that in the back of your mind as you move forward.
Senate?
Can you speak to those service reductions?
Sure, absolutely. The big one that I would want to point out is if we were to do the HR audit, which I would highly recommend, then you need to have a follow-on document, an employee handbook. Right now, the city of Nashua citywide does not have an employee handbook. It's something that I would think would be helpful for this organization, although not necessary per requirements, but it is something that an organization such as ours would have on file. Thank you.
I have another question.
Okay, Alderman Kelly?
Tim, come back. So I have in my notes that the HR audit was slated for $75,000. This line item's $125,500. What else is in there?
I would have to check my notes. I mean, the employee handbook was one. We also use it for Navisite to help with various Lawson upgrades as necessary relative to the HR functions. So right now I can tell you that we are working with the finance department where approximately $30,000 contract is underway to improve our grants module. That was a recent thing that just came about. We would not have the funds to be able to do something like that.
What is a grants module?
Sure, that's a specific function within our Lawson finance reporting system that helps us keep track of grants. And we haven't been optimizing it as well as we could have. Particularly the issue is accounting for benefit monies appropriately when we have grants. And so we're hoping to work through that issue so the information systems that we have work more effectively for us. Thank you.
Senate?
Thank you. I wish he wasn't walking away.
He did it at the public hearing, too. He likes to
If I could take you back to our first review meeting when we had gone over administrative services, I had also asked about the $40,000 unexpended line for consulting services in administrative services on page 56. That was $40,000. And at the time, I was told that that amount was used to supplement shortcomings in other departments within that division. Is that still accurate?
Yep, that's true.
Thank you.
Okay, before he runs back to his seat, any other questions, Alderman Kelly?
Nope.
I mean, sorry, Clete?
Almost all the letters are there.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. Is any of this consulting costs ever used or could potentially be used to have to fulfill a position if we were ever short-staffed or anything else like that, much like what we have had to do in assessing and so on? Has that ever been a concern up in that area? I know hiring is becoming harder and harder to fill, so is this ever kind of
Yes.
an impact insurance kind of policy that we might be concerned of, and a cut like this could actually be a position that we might need?
Dr. Cummings?
I mean, the simple answer is yes. It is something we would look to use.
Any other questions? Yes, Alderman O'Brien?
Thank you. Director Cummings, you know I'm chairman of the Infrastructure Committee, and we've worked together on many projects, several of which we had, because of the technicality of the issues involved, had to get a hold of consultants. By voting this down, could that affect the good work of the Committee of Infrastructure to some degree, when we need to get information from consultants?
If I may,
Dr.
Mr. Chairman.
Cummings?
So, I mean, the spirit of your question, the answer is yes. Specifically for this department, I would have to say no. We wouldn't necessarily use consulting services for infrastructure-like projects, but we do utilize consultants to your point.
Good. Alderwoman Kelly?
I know we asked this earlier, CFO Griffin, but do we know what this count is actual through versus March?
On
It was
the 40,
19,000 when we got the book.
the 40,000?
Is that 40,000?
I don't think anything's been spent, but
Okay.
Any other questions for Director Cummings?
If I could just clarify that, though, we did have a contract up before Finance Committee that would have spent a bulk of it recently, and that was the strategy. Thank you.
Hey, I do have one question.
Can you, Alderman Senate, I think he has some questions on the motion.
Yeah,
Certainly.
what is your line item?
Of course, it's 53142, and that's on page 58.
And that's consulting services. Okay, very good, thank you.
Any other questions relative to this motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan, did you have a question?
Didn't?
Okay, all right.
Okay. Alderman Wiltshire.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
No.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes no. And Alderman,
Alderman
Alderman Tebow.
No.
And Alderman Dow.
No.
We have 3 yeas and 4 nays.
Motion fails.
Motion fails.
Okay. Any other motions? Do you have other motions, Alderman Senate?
I have like 2 more.
Oh, all right. Alderman Kelly?
John Sullivan has his hand up. Do you want to go to him first? I've done 2. I don't care.
Did he have his hand up?
He does.
Oh, I see it now,
I
yeah.
did. I wanted to make a motion if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead, Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you. Page 144 in the budget book, under schools. I'd like to reduce the proposed budget down to $188,743,656, which is a decrease of $2,518,903, and I'd like to speak to it, please.
Go ahead, speak to it.
Okay, I know that there was a lot of talk through this board and through the Board of Education about this situation facing schools, and I know that the Board of Ed raised the budget. I think it was maybe 4.25%. I don't know the exact amount. The lift that we have from the approved budget from fiscal year 2025, which was $182 million and change, was a 4.8% increase. I met personally with Mario Andrade and CFO DeGray a few weeks ago, and they were fully prepared to present a budget and execute on a budget of 3.5%. So my cut actually represents a 3.5% increase over the school budget from this past year. And where I found that money, in Dr. Andrade's presentation to the Board of Education, he put forward a number of $56.4 million in benefits. However, in our budget book, it's only listed as 55.2. So there is a savings, or there is a difference of $1.2 million out of that 2.5 that I'm looking to remove. I also found 23 open positions. These are not positions that are currently held by anyone. These are open positions. And that reflects another 1.5, almost $1.6 million. So there's actually, it goes over that 2.5, but I kept it at 2.5 million for the cut. There are other efficiencies that they could use. I mean, the school department has 3 HR representatives. I think that the school could save $194,000 in combining with the city to help that. But again, I can only make a bottom line cut. I can't tell them how to spend it. But so that's my motion, is to take that total down to $188,743,656. That's my motion.
So it's a bottom line cut as requested, but Alderman O'Brien, do you have the?
Yeah. What page, Alderman Sullivan, are we talking about?
144. That's where the,
right?
No, it's
that's
no.
where the numbers
It's
total out.
114 in
It's
your book.
114 in our book.
It's 114 in your book. Online, it's different.
I learned that last year.
What is it?
114.
114 in your book.
114. And it's the school department. Let me get to 114.
And what was the amount again?
I read it.
2.5 million.
No, that was the reduction.
It's 188,743,656, I think.
653 is what I had. Which one's right? Alderman Sullivan?
It's 188.
Hold on for a second.
743.
656.
Okay. All right, we're back. Page. And it's Department 191, schools. And what's your amount?
188.
188?
743.
Okay.
656.
Oh, you're right.
Okay. And that's coming from what line item?
We can put a bottom line.
Okay, so,
Schools,
yeah,
bottom
for the
line.
schools, it's the bottom line.
Alderman O'Brien, he's telling you how much he wants left on the line, not how much he wants cut from the line.
The cut is 2.5.
So he wants to cut it too. Okay. I think we got this. I'll write that down. Thank you, Counselor.
Alderman Tebow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think I'd like to probably hear from the superintendent and Mr. Gray, just because, so you did tell me that Alderman Sullivan found mistakes in the education budget that they didn't find when they went through it, or like how does he find this money that wasn't presented to us when they presented? So I'd kind of be curious about that, since we've had trouble with that before of money not being in the right place. So I'd be curious about that, for one. And I'd also ask the question of, you know, I was told that if we went down to 3.5%, jobs would be lost in the education department. And now we're saying that going down to that, there would be no job loss or jobs cut. So I'd kind of like to hear about that before I sign off on something that I'm not sure if it's going to cut jobs or not. I wish the union was here, because I'd be curious what their thoughts were on this.
I
But
intend to bring them up.
okay, thank you.
Dr. Mario Andrade, Superintendent of Schools.
Crystal DeGray, Chief Operating Officer.
So again, just for clarification, the 3.5% had a reduction in force. And so that was our conversation. The Board of Education voted on a 4.7 to restore as many positions as possible. A 3.5 would incorporate a reduction in force. I want to be clear, though, we've missed our date on which I can notify teachers. It's the second Tuesday after the first full Monday. There's a state law when I have to notify teachers to have that reduction in force. So I've already notified 3 teachers that we're reducing their positions. And so when we talked 2 months ago, it was, 40 positions. We reduced some through attrition and retirement. That's into account. There's 3 or 5, it might be 5, positions that just have low enrollment. So we have no students for them to subscribe. So those positions are eliminated. And our open positions are district-wide para-educators. Those are our open positions. We will be proposing to transfer instructional paras that we have more into those open positions for a reduction in some positions. So we're reallocating FTEs, but the Board of Education is, again, it's a 4.7 to ensure that we have enough FTEs to support our students. The 3.5, I would be really concerned kind of going forward, is in our special education services, our contract services. So when we have a new referral, we might have to hire teachers or para-educators throughout the school year. A 3.5 may not allow us to do that moving forward. So we would be bare minimum, and if a new student, just in the last month, or the last 2 months, we have about 100 new special education referrals for intensive needs students. That's going to be a strain on the budget, and how do we support those students? And that, as we'll hear about, is increase in out-of-district tuition and contract services. So if we don't find a special education teacher, we don't find a paraeducator, we will go to contract services to provide those services that are in a student's IEP. So 3.5 will really hamstring us, even with that reduction.
Just for clarification, the budget that's before us from the mayor is 7.0, not 7.5.
4.0.
4.0, I'm sorry.
The Board of Education voted on a 4.7.
Okay.
Follow?
I think Alderman Kelly had a
Well,
question.
I asked the question, so can I follow up?
Oh, yeah.
That's fine.
Follow up, go
I
ahead.
yield.
No, I mean,
Yeah, and there was a question about the benefits, so
Yeah.
we can clarify that.
I was going to say, if I could clarify the benefits. So when we originally met with the team, my understanding from an overall benefit standpoint is it was going to go up roughly 10%. So I think the budget that is before you now shows a reduction already in those original benefit amounts. So the benefits as a whole from school district side is about 55 million, where I think original presentations at 3.5% actually showed closer to like 58 million.
okay, so Alderman Sullivan wasn't working for you guys on the side and figured it out. It's just, there was a reduction to begin with. Okay, gotcha. So what he's proposing now, is that something you guys are for or against?
Want me to go?
Yeah, the 3.5, I think what we talked about transportation. My concern is the unknown in special education, quite honestly. Once we have our bottom line, that's our bottom line. We've seen an increase we budgeted last year $6 million in out-of-district tuition. This year was $7.3 million. So once we get our bottom line, I'm going to be really concerned on our flexibility to meet our students with disability and their needs kind of going forward. So that would be my concern. If we have a 4 or a 4.7, I would be strongly recommending to the Board of Education to invest more in contract service and out of district, as opposed to restoring positions, because in a year from now, we're going to be having the same conversation on the sustainability of those positions. So we want to make sure that we support our students with the right positions, and that would be my concern, as opposed to restoring all our current positions. So that would be, the 3.5 is really going to hamstring us, and as we go through, our students have to come first. And we're hearing in other departments, we might look at reduction in other areas that might be maintenance or somewhere else, so that we put students first. So
Okay,
that's my concern with the 3.5 or even the 4, whatever money we get, we have to look at our students and their needs.
Thank you. I won't be supporting this amendment. Thank you.
Just for clarification, special education students, you're mandated by state and federal law, you have to educate them. So you don't have a choice. If you ended up being short during the year in your budget to cover those people, you'd have to come back here and ask us for more money, and we'd have to give it to you because of state and federal law. Okay. Alderman Kelly?
That was one of the points I was going to make, because you said you'd be concerned about special education. I will start by saying I'm not for this amendment, but I did have questions around your PowerPoint with the budget additions. So you have the 375 and the 4 in there. You mentioned the district-wide paras. Are those included in either of those lines? There's a couple of acronyms, BTs and BCBAs, that I wasn't readily filling in my head.
Yeah, so BCBA is more of a behavior clinician behavior analysis. So it's really about students that have behavior disorders. It has higher training than a district-wide para or a special educator. There's a degree program, there's a certification aspect, but that provides better or more support and interventions for students who are displaying aberrant behaviors. Same thing with a behavior technician. It's a different certification program that's above a district-wide para. Again, in that training where we're seeing more students come in displaying really aberrant behaviors, not the typical off-task ADHD, ADD kind of behavior. So those positions require more training, and really we've been working with the NTU on how do we provide training for our district-wide paras as well. So it's getting a lot more specific in the training and supports we need for our students.
Can I follow up? Sorry, just on the paras. In terms of the paras, my understanding is that a lot of the open positions are paras, so anything that is cut on yours would go directly to a reduction in paras. Is that correct?
Our openings, I just want to be clear, we have instructional paras and we have district-wide paras. Our district-wide paras work with our more intensive needs students, the self-contained classrooms. That's where our openings are. Mm-hmm. We have more of an abundance in instructional paras. So our openings right now are at the district-wide paras, and we're actually through the student's IEP. That's where we're spending a lot of money on contract services, and we're paying a higher rate for those outside paras to come in to support those people. What we're suggesting is that when we have a surplus, I hate to say, of instructional paras, like when people we're short paras, we're not short instructional paras.
District-wide.
We're short district-wide paras. So one of our moves is so no one would lose a position as an instructional para. They can fill a district-wide para. We wouldn't have any openings, and we would actually reduce contract services as well. So that's where everybody other than 5 or 6 people, there is a position for people, and we would still eliminate positions like FTEs on our bottom line and meet the needs of students. My concern is the forecast of what's the future needs and whether we have flexibility in our budget to meet the future needs of students that might be moving in or require more services. I don't know if that answers your question, but it is getting to that different levels of support for students.
I have another question, but I don't want to be rude.
No, please, finish your question.
I
can wait.
Thank you. So you said that your out-of-district costs were above and beyond what you budgeted last year by about $1.5 million. Where did you find that money?
So based off of the out-of-district tuition being over by about $1.5 million, it was a combination of wages of unfilled positions that were able to move into contract services. And then also we do have a special revenue account that we're able to go ahead and move some of the expenses there because our tuition actually is higher. So the budget actually that is in front of you, even at a 4%, we for next year have added money into contract services and out-of-district tuition. In addition to our special revenue account, we've added about $1.3 million of expenses for next year to hopefully offset that. Now, those are two line items that year over year we don't have a ton of control over. So through the budget presentations, there was mention as far as if we continue to spend that much out of special revenue, at some point, the fund balance is going to be gone. So over to Dr. Andrade's point, over the course of the next couple of years, we probably should continue to put more money in out-of-district tuition cost and contract services related to special education.
Thank you.
All set. Alderman Kelly, Clee?
We're not next to each other.
You understand how it feels.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You made a comment about you had 100 new referrals for intensive special education needs. Is that all within the Nashville Public Schools, or is that coming in from a required that we have to do the IEPs for private schools and so on like that?
These are current K-8 students.
These are right within our K through 12 students right here in the Nashville. It's K through 8, okay. Wow, that's pretty amazing that we have this. May I follow up with?
Follow up.
Thank you. When you talk about contract services, I'm a strong believer in contract services, but I also have I don't like being completely rely on contract services to do all our jobs, because I believe that if we turf out all the jobs, then we end up where we are with First Transit, and they kind of hold us hostage there. I like them being a fail-safe and a kind of a fallback, but why would we want to contract all these positions out?
That's not our preference.
Okay.
We would rather hire within our district-wide and hire in-house. However, if we don't hire anybody, and I think, again, working with the NTU and our paraeducators, we do have a tentative agreement. I'm hopefully that new agreement will be able to recruit and retain people so that we don't have the vacancies in these positions. But where handcuffed is if it's in a student's IEP, I can't just say I don't have a person from internally, I have to provide that service. So then we have to go to the contract, to the agency. We don't prefer, that's not our first line. There are some positions, to be transparent, speech and language, school psychologists, we can't find enough of, and year after year, we do have to go to a contract service. We are actually in negotiations with a couple agencies. If we look at multi-year contracts, we've been using the same agency for like 10 years. If we can enter into a multi-year contract, can we get a reduced rate? So we are trying to negotiate those if we know it's a problem year after year. But we also want to make sure that we're not, no unfair labor practices and that aspect. But contract services is not our first way to fill positions.
Can I just add some additional clarity to what Dr. Andrade said? So again, from a contract service standpoint, I think what we struggle with at times is, again, it's not our preference to hire there, right? But when we go ahead and hire a contract service individual, we're seeing sometimes 2 and 3 times the cost of if we were to hire that individual ourselves. We're able to move the wage money, but we're not able to move the benefits money. So in regards to what Alderman Sullivan recommended benefits-wise, I think I would ask to work directly with the CFO of the city to say, year over year, it looks like we do give back benefit money. I don't know if there is a reduction in the benefits piece or not. But again, because contract services, right, we can only move the wage money. I think especially this year and years past, that is why there's so much benefit money kind of left over at the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you. No, just one real quick question. So The bottom line is, and I know you've just said it, but I just want to paraphrase it. So the bottom line is, you would have less contract services if you didn't have the vacancies, is what it all comes down to. So you're just looking at contract services with that. A comment was just made. Are you saying that contract services are cheaper than hiring people?
Absolutely not.
You were saying just the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's what was being said. So, good, because I agree with that.
Yeah.
In the end, I think contract services always cost more, so, yes.
And just for the clarification there, is that when we make those line adjustments, we move from wages from the vacancy into contract services, but we're not able to move the benefits associated with that vacancy into covering that cost. So we're only moving, 2/3 of that allotment, total compensation, into covering the cost of the contracts of the agency. The other, just in contract services, it's not only special education. There might be contract services for our IT department, plan ops, so that big number of the $3 million is just not special education. So there's other contracts in there as well.
Thank you, Mr.
Are
Chairman.
there any other questions directly related to this motion? Alderman Senate?
Thank you. It sounds to me like, and I think I'm pretty confident in saying this, that the precipice that a lot of this rests upon is the trending increase in special education services required. And Dr. Andrade, I know you've said it, Alderman Dowd has said it, I'm just going to say it again for posterity's sake. This is non-discretionary spending. If these students enter the district and they're identified as such with certain needs, then we're required to provide those. That's always going to be my first concern. That's just the nature of childhood today, and it's also the nature of the reality I'm living as a parent. Beyond that, my concern goes to, if we reduce this, and that non-discretionary funding continues to rise, or spending, I should say, continues to rise and rise, where do the cuts go? Because you're going to have to make difficult cuts, and it hasn't even been brought up in this chamber yet, but that leads me to worry about programs that it seems nationwide are always on the chopping block. The arts, music, even the libraries within the school. The easiest things to cut, because they don't fall within certain mandates of what quantifies a standard education. Could you speak, just for the sake of the public's knowledge, our knowledge, if that continues to rise, where do you foresee those cuts coming?
Yeah, great question. And a little scarier is if you look at the 306s coming out of the Department of Education. What is a basic education? It is minimal.
It's not much.
It's not much.
Yeah.
And so that's by law what we're required. And I think in Nashville we want more. But to your point, we're going to have those conversations on what are our electives, what's our programs. What's not at the table now is also, we're doing a facility study now. How many buildings are we maintaining? What does our classrooms look like? What's our investment in that infrastructure? So that'll go into, and I think at our last meeting is, along the way, are we closing a school for potential savings so that we don't have to cut other programs? So I think that's a good conversation we need to have. Alderwoman Kelly, at our last meeting, we're having real conversations on what does our special education program look like. We know that we can't continue to do the same thing we're doing year after year, and we might have to have some harder conversation on what the special education services look like. What's economy of scale? How do we, group students together? How do we get, and that's going to be real conversations on how do we do that balancing act of what's our shared services so that we can educate all students and have wraparound services. And, in Nashville, I think we pride ourselves on having a great school system. We're really thankful for the mayor, the Board of Aldermen for their support. We have incredible community support, nothing like I've ever seen before, and we don't want to deteriorate that. These are hard kind of conversations, and, I really appreciate us having conversations on where are those savings and where do we go, but also at the end, what I'm hearing is, how do we invest in our kids? We don't want to cut programs. We want to put the money where we need to. So my concern, again, is I don't want to cut our robust CTE program. Right? We need to do that differently, but that's where we'll see what's the lowest subscription. In one of my slides, out of about roughly 10,000 students, we only have about 5,800 regular ed students now. The other roughly 3,200 kids are special ed and ELL students, which require different services. And so we want to make sure we're missing a great band concert tonight at South. There's another concert on Thursday night. We don't want to cut our performing arts. We don't want to cut our CTE programs. So we need to make thoughtful decisions on what those investments are.
Follow-up comment?
Follow-up?
Thank you. And I'll apologize on your behalf to Tony Coronas for you missing that tonight. He could probably take it better from me. In regard to that, and thank you for articulating very seriously the nature of those conversations that would have to take place. The only thing I would like to add is, because I do feel like it gets lost in the conversation, and a lot of times people find themselves wondering, well, what's going on? Why are so many kids being classified into the special education programs in the school? Is to begin really thinking articulately about what special education looks like. Because we're not just talking about children with intensive needs. We're not just talking about children with ADHD or autism spectrum disorder. Special education could be something as simple as a child with vision impairment that prevents them from even being able to write properly. They know how to write, they know how to form those letters, but their vision prevents them from doing it at a grade level. That would qualify as special education. And so I hate the words left behind, because it just calls to historic regulations that have come down that did no good. But I shudder to make this cut and to see a child with something that we might think of as simple as that get left behind simply because they were born with eyes that don't work as well as somebody else's. And that's where I'm going to leave it.
Any other questions for yes, Alderman Lopez,
Here's
question?
the skepticism, so I'll try to be quick. This is a concern that I raised earlier in the meeting, where you're not being fiscally conservative. You set us up to spend more money. And particularly where we're looking at the reality that the district-wide paras, they don't cost as much if we can hire those positions. If we eliminate those positions, we're basically dooming the school department to have to pay for the contract services to provide the legally mandated services. Are we still in a settlement, or is the school district still under a settlement with the Department of Justice regarding special education?
It's for ELL. It's for ELL, and we actually just received a letter last week that we satisfied the settlement agreement. So we're actually exiting the settlement agreement, but that does not eliminate our commitment to our ELL students. We are not where we need to be. Earlier on, in our last presentation, I showed the amount of ELL students that increased over time. We have 8 new ELL teachers in this year's budget. I'll tell you right now, we probably need 5 more next year. But it was also being conservative year after year. How do we grow? So we've out of the DOJ settlement, and I think the transition, I said this at the Board of Education meeting last week, I said it to our internal staff, we are now transitioning from compliance to commitment. And so it's no longer the DOJ is over our head saying we must do this. Now we must be committed to our ELL students and all of our students that this is what we have to do. It's no longer the DOJ says this. This is because we know it's the right thing to do.
Just to follow up.
Okay.
Congratulations on the hard years of trying to meet the conditions of that settlement.
It's fun.
Do you think it would be fiscally prudent to enter back into another one because we didn't give you the resources you need to prevent that from happening again?
No, if I may.
Yes.
And I think the difference is, that was about compliance. I think we're in a good place, and we're building the culture internally to have conversations like this on how do we invest in our students and do the right thing before somebody mandates it. So I think that's our moral obligation, to have these hard conversations on how do we invest in all of our students and put the resources in the right place. We're probably, my concern on DOJ or OCR complaints would be around special education. I think that's our biggest risk on being out of compliance.
All set, everyone? Okay, my own personal opinion is that I was chair of the Budget Committee for the Board of Education for several years, and I fully believe that the cut the mayor made to the budget where we're at now is dire enough. The school budget's always difficult to manage. It's a difficult job, Crystal. And it's a day-to-day thing, and it's a large amount of money, but it's the biggest job in the entire city, and we're educating our future leaders and our children, and to shortchange any of them is not in the best interest of anyone. So with that, I'm not supporting this motion, but would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you. Alderman Wilshire.
No.
Alderwoman Kelly.
No.
Alderman Theobald.
No.
Alderman Senate.
No.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes no. You have one, two.
Excuse me.
You get my no. Oh, yes. Alderman Dowd, I skip you because you're the chairman. There you go.
Yeah.
Come back to you. Go ahead.
All right. So that motion fails. Are there any other motions to be made on the budget? Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you. I need to make a motion on page, let me find the page, I think it's 117. This is on line 89789. If you'll recall, Director Sullivan spoke to us about this. It was just a clerical error. So I need to amend the interfund transfer budget to reflect a $300,000 appropriation to the Community Energy Benefit Rate Expendable Trust Fund.
Want to give all those details to Alderman O'Brien again, please?
What page was it?
117.
On the printed copy? You want to bring up Director Sullivan?
It's a good question. That's what I was given, but that might not
Since
be
he had
the
to
right
be here
printed
anyway,
copy
might as
page.
well.
Yeah, that's right, on the printed copy.
You said 89789?
89789. It's not there.
Can you give the information to Alderman O'Brien again?
What page are you on?
So the page I was given was 117, but I don't see 89789 on that page.
May I speak to this, Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Director Sullivan.
Thank you. For the record, Matt Sullivan, Community Development Director. What we're in fact attempting to do here, and I apologize for the reference to the line, but we're actually attempting to add a new line, which I believe would be 89788. But please, Treasurer Ann Wright, CFO Griffin, correct me if I'm incorrect. What we're trying to do is do an appropriation to the Community Benefit Energy Fund that was created earlier this year that is intended to be the recipient of Community Power Coalition adder monies. Again, this is the benefit rate or the benefit charge that's charged to ratepayers under the current CPCNH environment. We've accumulated a reserve balance with the Community Power Coalition, and we intend to collect more monies over the coming year. This is a tax-neutral interfund transfer, and the intent is literally to allow us to actually accept the monies and then make the transfer into the fund that has been created. And in chatting with CFO Griffin, this is the mechanism to do that. It is, again, an amendment to page 117 to add a line 89788, which is an interfund transfer into the community benefit rate fund in the amount of $300,000. And apologies again for the reference to the line being incorrect.
That's okay. I had
Hello?
it as an expendable trust fund.
That's correct.
Okay. So let me make sure the clarity is that we are actually adding a line on the interfund transfers. 89788.
Yeah.
And the motion is to reflect a $300,000 appropriation to the Community Energy Benefits Rate Expendable Trust Fund.
Does our finance
Is that
team
right?
understand the motion and have all the info?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's the important part.
Yes.
Director Sullivan, what pages?
Page 117.
It doesn't exist yet.
And it's, what's the number?
We're adding a line.
You're adding,
Mhm.
you're adding 89788,
Correct.
and to the amount of
300,000.
300,000.
So this is a neutral motion.
It's just allowing us to get the monies we've already collected.
Any other questions on this particular motion? Question, Alderman Lopez?
I have a point of clarification on what you just said. When you say it's a neutral motion, does that mean that where in the past money was added to an account and that requires a 10 vote, if it was just create a new line, then you don't need 10 votes, or am I misunderstanding that?
We
Well, we've already passed things that require 10 votes, so it's
Yes, but
it's a
if we
mute
had
point.
gone back in
And
time.
since we're at, it's, I guess I would have to turn to Attorney Bolton, if I think you're adding a line, which is, you just.
Are you asking me a question?
Huh?
So the
You already are going to need a supermajority at the full Board of Aldermen. It doesn't matter whether you do this or not. You will still need a 2/3 majority at the full Board of Aldermen.
Yep, so.
I think the question
I don't know
was
if I can
whether...
ask, if we'd done things differently, would we not have?
No, because I added.
Well, yeah.
But it's water over the
If you
bridge.
pass the budget exactly as the mayor presented it, it would require a simple majority.
Okay, that's true. Thank you.
Any other questions relative to this?
I'm sorry, I'm going to dig in on that because I
Alderman
want
Kelly?
the answer. I thought the question that my previous speaker was asking is whether we can just create the line item or if we need to create the line item and the 300,000. Is that what you were asking?
I was thinking that if we made an amendment to reset everything, and then you added money to Public Health's department by creating a new line item, would that actually still be a supermajority? But I think Attorney Bolton said that if anything increases it, then it would.
Yeah, the supermajority issue is it's water over the dam. All right, any other questions for Director Sullivan? If not, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Theobald.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes yes. Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
You have 7 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries.
Okay. Any other motions?
I do have one.
Alderman O'Brien.
I would like to make a motion regarding Department 152, which is fire, line item 51900. And that's on page 75. What I want to do is basically what the mayor has spoke about, but I want to add back the $89,196. And I would like to speak to you briefly about this motion. I enjoy working with the mayor, but I totally disagree with this money being taken out. Last year, this board approved monies for this to set into contingency to work on in the future, and this is the future. I became a deputy fire chief in approximately the year 2000. I was a deputy chief for 15 years. I saw personally the compression from the captains coming up to equaling my pay. It can't be stopped. It happens. This is the problem when you have a system. You have the union, and they negotiate the raises, but we had what was, when I started, was the merit system. Now, I used to think the merit system for the city of Nashua was, you do a good job, they give you a gold star for your forehead, and they sign a wonderful piece of paper that you did a good job, but they don't give you a raise. And that happened a couple of times, which has increased that compression. It depends upon who's in the corner office at the time. So now, in totality, we're talking about a problem that I can actually put my thumb on in dates of 25 years. When is going to be the perfect time to fix this problem? There probably never is. We got to stop that. We either do it or we don't do it. And this is high time. There is a problem. People, top officers, are leaving. They're taking chief jobs in other communities. And if you want to, I'd be happy to discuss that with you and give you the names, of it. But if we're going to we train and we invest in these firefighters, I think we want to keep them because it's common sense what the taxpayers pay for. And I think this budget is only going to add basically 0.263%. It's only that what we're talking about of the fire department and the budget. That's relatively small. Yet this will create, solve an awful lot of problems that have gone on way too long. And the mayor, I believe in what he said. Oh, we'll look at it later. But you know something? That's the story that they told me 25 years ago. Time to stop it. Grab the bull by the horns, and I hope you can support the fire department, the officers. This is only 7 people. 7 that we're talking about. You want to keep them? You want your fires to go out? And the other thing is, if you don't correct it, then I would recommend that the management go join a union. That's terrible. But the only way to fix this is for us to solve this problem today. I don't want them to join the union, although I am a strong union man. But it's time for us to fix it. Thank you.
Alderman Tebow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was originally going to make this motion earlier until I really heard the mayor. The other piece is voting on this right now doesn't fix this. We did it last year. We voted on it last year. They still don't have the money. So we vote this tonight, they still ain't getting the money. Somebody needs to create an ordinance to get them the money. So, we're going to do this, it's just going to sit there again, and they're not going to get it. So that's my concern, and believe me, I'm 100%, they deserve this money, 100%. But then, are we going to be dealing? I don't know. I mean, is the mayor speaking with hyperbole that we're going to be getting the police coming forward saying they want more money, and Public Works coming forward and they want more money? Like, are we going to have that ripple? I don't really know how far they are from where, the police make, or Public Works, or is it that much of a gap that now we're going to have them coming at us, and where are we going to get the money during the year? We're going to have to wait for budget season again. So that's what I'm concerned about. I would love to support this, and I still might, but I'm worried about some of those things that we're going to need an ordinance. Someone's going to have to do an ordinance.
Alderman O'Brien?
And to reply to that, I'd be very happy to write that ordinance. I lived it. I saw the pain where captains were making as much money as me, subordinates making as much money as I was. It wasn't fun being a merit employee or an unaffiliated, as we now use the term, because we finally figured out maybe the merit system doesn't work.
Follow up.
So I will write that ordinance. As far as, the police or somebody else, you always got to have face lookers, people who look over the fence. Well, tell them. Privacy laws. Don't look over the fence. You can't be saying this, that, and stuff like that. I mean, these are guys that risk their lives for the citizens of Nashua. They should be compensated for that, and not worry about a subordinate have the possibility to make more money than they can. This is the problem. They'll still do the job because they love their jobs and they love this community. All they're asking is for a fair shake. It's only 7 people, again. And so, I don't know what happened. I thought everybody assumed, and perhaps maybe me, that by passing it last year, it would just automatically come into play. But if we're going to need an ordinance, I'll write an ordinance to support this.
Follow up, just
Alderman Tebow?
yeah, I mean, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, I'm not the one I'm the one that was gonna put the ordinance in an hour and a half ago, so you're preaching to the choir. But, my comments on that is, where's the ordinance been?
Again, I didn't think we needed it.
Well, I guess nobody knew.
Right, exactly.
So we went a whole year and nobody knew there was supposed to be an ordinance? We just had this money sitting there that was supposed to go to them? I think that's terrible. It's awful.
Alderman Kelly?
I was just going to request that Chief is here if he could speak on this. I missed the meeting when Fire was here.
Certainly. Chief Buxton?
Good evening, Steve Buxton, Chief Nashua Fire. So most of the points have already been made here tonight. There was money put in contingency last year for this exact problem. The problem is real, it does exist. It is age-old, Alderman O'Brien up there. I have lived in this system. I have taken pay cuts with each step that I move up the chain of command, and I do have subordinates that make more than me. I do not do this job for the money. None of my staff do this job for the money. However, at the end of the day, it is tough to go home at times and explain why you're taking a promotion and you're taking a hit in the paycheck. At the same time, you're accepting more responsibilities. In some cases, you're accepting the ultimate responsibility for the entire organization. That's a hard ball of wax to sell at home. Your request for information about the ordinance, one has been crafted, is working its way through the process to appear in front of you. Has been being worked on throughout the year. We're in talks with the mayor's office, with the people conducting the wage study, and that is why there was a delay in that riding year. But it has been in the works. The ordinance reads very similar to one that was crafted about 3 years ago. So.
Okay, I got Alderman Sullivan too. Alderman Sullivan, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Alderman O'Brien for bringing this motion forward. I'm going to wholeheartedly support it. I think that this is all about supporting the future leaders of Nashua Fire and Rescue. I was made aware of this situation earlier this year when a very good leader for our fire department decided to step away, and he let me know the situation that was going on. So when this came to the forefront, then it was conspicuous to me that the money was left off the budget. And this is all about the sustainability of the department, and it's about leadership. And I think that, when you talk about allocating resources, I think doing something like that to allow a very great department to move forward, because you're paying your leaders and you're bringing these leaders into the organization and helping it grow and move forward. So I'm 100% support this. And if whatever we need the ordinance. We talked about the ordinance. Okay, well, we're here now talking about money. So now we're going to do money, and then we're going to do the ordinance to make sure that it goes through. So I think that that's the opportunity in front of us. So I'll absolutely support this. Thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you. Alderman Wilshire?
We've been talking about this compression issue since I've been on the Board of Aldermen, which is a long time. I agree with Alderman O'Brien. Now is the time. We're never going to be in a good budget season. We're never going to be in a good place to add this. Never. There's not one year we've said, oh, we got a great budget, we don't have to worry about anything. Not one year since I've been on this board have we said that or done that or done anything for the fire department to address the compression issue. Do we know how much was put in contingency in the current year's budget?
I believe it is about $93,000.
How much was put in for last year?
Yeah, for the current year.
This year's budget?
Yes.
That we're talking about now or last year?
The FY25 budget.
About the same amount,
Yeah.
About 93,000, give or take.
around 90.
Okay.
I'm being told 99,447.
99,447? Thank you.
Alderwoman Kelly?
Couple comments, couple questions. I'm sorry that you have not been able to get the money that we did discuss and appropriate. That number includes benefits? Is that a full round number with everything involved?
I believe so.
And if the ordinance that is working through goes through, will you be able to back pay the appropriated from last time?
I believe that would depend on the way the ordinance was adopted.
Okay. Can I ask another
Yes,
question
go
of a
ahead.
different director, please?
Different direction? Go ahead.
I remember the conversation being around the full look at everybody, like the mayor was asking, and that is actually coming up to personnel, and I know Director Cummings is here, so I'm interested in what he might have to say about. The conversation was, oh, if we just do fire, we got to look at everything, and we did do that. He hates me so much.
This could be a very lengthy conversation, so.
Director Cummings.
Thank you. Tim Cummings, Director of Administrative Services. So, case in point, we have a system where we have categorized positions in a way to be equitable and fair to everyone involved. So, in this instance, and I'll use the police chief as an example, he falls in the same category as the Director of Public Works. And so, we have a Director of Public Works that could also reasonably argue to have as such an increase as our fire chief. If you don't want the fire chief as an example, you could use the assistant fire chief, which is categorized at the same way we categorize our city engineer or our corporation counsel. And all those individuals deserve raises just as much. And so I would suggest it's a very unique and complex problem that we need to study, and it's before the Personnel Administration Committee. We've been talking to that body. I think if we are going to do something, I would recommend to this body to do something holistically, because let's talk about a group that isn't mentioned here tonight, and one that really deserves attention, and that's cemetery ground workers, because they make not enough. They are only making $16, $17, $18 an hour, but they're capped out under our current system, the current system that is also causing problems for a lot of the same higher wage employees. But they don't have anyone here necessarily advocating for them. And so I would suggest to this body, if you're going to do something, you do it in a holistic manner. Thank you.
Director Cummings, don't walk away, please. Thank you. So you have the results of that, and we were discussing it at the next Personnel Administrative Affair Committee on June 2nd, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just one thing, as far as the cemetery workers, Director Cummings does know that I've brought that up for months now, and because they were all looking to hit the road because they're not making as much as their counterparts other places in the city.
And Mr. Chairman, to your point, they're at step 8 at their grade level. They cannot go any higher unless we change the scale.
Okay, so I think the crux of the situation is, much like Manchester, our entire compensation system is broke. And much like Manchester, we went out and did a study and found out that the answers were something we couldn't afford in one fell swoop. I think we need to take an overall look at our entire compensation system, and it's probably pretty evident that we can't do all the corrections in one fell swoop. But we got to take a bite of this apple one bite at a time. I was looking at other alternatives for the fire, and Chief and I have talked about this numerous times. And you're right, it's been on the books for a long time, and I think it is time. And as far as the other people that could be impacted relative to their compensation, I think we need to have a discussion as a full board, and starting with a committee, on the entire compensation package and how do we fix it. And it probably has to be done over time, not all at once, but I think the firemen have waited a significantly long time for their fix. So I'm going to support this. Alderman Tebow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this annoys me because, I had the emotion earlier and I was going to make it budget neutral, but I decided to make the budget neutral of the healthcare workers, so I went a different direction, I guess. But I am going to support it because I was going to support it originally, but then the mayor spoke and made it sound like we were bad people. So, I am going to support it. And Alderman Sullivan's comments, he was in this committee for when the fire department was here, and he's been on the budget for 4 years, and I've been here for 4 years, and I've been advocating for this as long as I've known about it. I've been speaking out about it. I talked to the chief about it. I talked to him in that meeting. I went to him afterwards and the commissioners and said, I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to find this money. So it has been something that's important to me too. I've been on that side from day one. But for Alderman Sullivan, he was in that meeting and he said, what is this about? Can you explain it to me? So he can't tell us that he knew what this was about, even though he's been on the budget committee, because he asked specifically about it. So, well, some of us have been fighting for it for 4 years, others have really not. So I just want to put that out there. I will support it tonight.
Alderman Sullivan?
Well, I appreciate it. I didn't know we were going to get into a personal debate tonight, but I did want to, I did ask about it, and I certainly had heard the stories about it, and I followed up and had the conversations. And I thought that this all tied back, and absolutely 100%. Still doesn't take away to the fact that we have to pay our future leaders in the city, and I think that's what we got to do. So personalities aside, this is what we have to do.
Well, you were talking, so I'll give you a follow-up.
Thanks. You can play the tape back and see, but, I want to pay paras, too. I want to pay paras. They're important, too. So, you don't. So, we want to pay people. We want to pay everybody in the city. It's important to have good teachers, good firemen, good policemen. I'm on board with this. I'm supporting it. I've been supporting it from day one.
Okay. Alderman Kelly?
Thank you. I just wanted to put a point on this and say we will be talking originally about the study on June 2nd. I welcome the conversation. I think some of the previous speakers have talked about taking it one bite at a time. I'm pretty sure I heard that the price tag to do it all once is about $1 million a year. So I think we will have to take that approach when looking at it.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions relative to this motion? Alderman Klee?
Thank you. Just for clarification, you are just putting this money into the budget, and until the ordinance or something comes through and is passed by this body, that money does not get touched. It just sits there. Is that correct?
Well, it appears there's an ordinance going through at the current
time. I know.
time.
I understand that, but I said it has to be passed by this body. Is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it won't be passed by this body, because I think it probably would be, but I just want to clarify that. So
Director Cummings?
So I want to take...
I just want to finish. The reason I asked that question was that if what is coming forward to Personnel Committee, if they decided to go with a plan for that, this $89,196, would that, the money that's been sitting here, that would cover if it came, because I'm assuming that that's part of that discussion? Is that part of that discussion?
Director Cummings?
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I would not make that assumption.
Okay.
So Tim Cummings, Director of Administrative Services. So there's a couple competing issues here that we just need to make sure we're clear on. First, the Personnel Administration Committee, it's only a discussion at this time. A piece of legislation is going to need to follow on after. The thought process is I would like to understand a little bit better of what the desire and appetite is of the Board of Aldermen, because we're not really sure where we're going to set the pay scale and the wages to date. And so we need to work through that issue and develop the legislation. I would anticipate that would happen this summer. And whatever that decision would be, any of those monies wouldn't be put into the budget until FY27. So it wouldn't be for FY26. Now, separate and apart from that, we need to have a conversation and make an affirmative election to possibly remove the fire personnel that are currently classified as unaffiliated off of that wage scale and put on a separate type of scale and wage matrix. That needs to occur, and that could happen in a separate piece of legislation, and that also could run in tandem, if you will, but definitely needs to occur. But then, to be clear, and we haven't worked through these details yet, so you don't necessarily know what the pay is for these various salaries, but assuming if that ordinance was filed and then stayed true to how it is, it sounds as though if you were to approve this amendment, then there would be monies available in FY26 to actually make those budgetary adjustments in that fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
So I think what I've heard tonight is if this passes and gets passed at the full budget on the 27th,
Full board.
24th, next Board of Aldermen meeting,
Full budget.
that I'm pretty sure an ordinance will follow, and I certainly would like to see it in budget by sometime in June.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the legal department has 5 drafts that we've prepared at the request of the Board of Fire Commissioners to remove the chief officers, the 7 chief assistant, 2 assistant chiefs, 4 deputy chiefs, from the salary scale of the unaffiliated policies. We think we've come to the conclusion that we want to continue to have them there for the other policies, which includes the benefits provided and things of that nature, although that's not certain yet either, but at least a couple of the drafts provide for that. They mostly are centered around, the differences are mostly centered around what the percentage is. Deputy chiefs are going to make 20% more than the captains. Assistant chiefs are going to make 20% more than deputy chiefs. The chief is going to make 15% more than the assistant chief. So maybe it's 20% on every gap, or maybe it's 15% on every gap. But we've revised this several times. We also have revisions about the amount of vacation accumulated in hours, because the schedules of these positions are not all the same in terms of hours per week and how they do the shifts and all of that in the different positions. So as soon as someone tells us exactly what they want, we're pretty much ready to go. Whether the Board of Aldermen likes what it sees is another whole issue.
Okay. That's what I was referring to. I thought there was one.
But this is not something that someone's told us this is what we want and is wondering why it's taken us a year to do it. We've been in a constant state of revising things.
Okay. Are there any more questions on this motion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Theobald.
Yes.
Alderman Senate.
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes yes. Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Are there any more motions relative to the budget, other than the one that Alderman O'Brien's going to make to send it to the full board? I don't see any hands up, so Alderman O'Brien?
Yes. At first, I'm going to, for procedural question, make a motion to table it, and then to send it to...
No.
Send it right to the board?
We're not tabling it anymore.
All right, here we go.
So.
Good job, everybody.
The motion is to forward to the full board with a recommendation from the from the Budget Committee for final passage of the resolution R25, what the heck's the number?
As amended?
143.
143.
As modified by the motions at the the Budget Committee meeting.
With the recommended
recommendation for final passage.
With the final passage with the recommended amendments.
Yes, that's it.
Well, let's see if we got this. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to recommend final passage of R25-143, which is the pending budget for fiscal year 2026, with the recommendation of the Budget Committee, again for final passage at the next Board of Aldermen's meeting.
Someone keeping track of all this?
Oh, yeah.
Where do we fall? Where are we?
Up 89, whatever.
We've added 389,196.
You said again,
389,196.
Thank you.
So the new general fund budget, 361,072,868.
Just follow up. We had a side conversation. The 300,000 is that net neutral intertransfer.
Right.
Thank you. I was like, it's only 89.
All right.
Confusing. Yeah.
Everybody understands the motion on the floor? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Senate,
Yes.
Alderman Theobald, excuse me,
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan,
No.
Alderman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes yes, Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
We have 6 yeas, 1 nay.
All right, so the full board will be voting on the budget at the next meeting. And now it's public comment. Is there anyone? Nope, none. General discussion or remarks by Alderman? Alderman Tebow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for all the departments coming out tonight and missing things like the school concert and things like that to be here and to speak with us. I just want to say, the budget it's I wouldn't say it's fun to be on, but it's trying to make sure that the city can still run and departments get what they need to continue to offer great services. There will be people here that say they support you, but then vote against the budget. So I just want to make that clear that I'm supporting you guys tonight, and I'll be supporting you guys next week. So thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, you're up again, Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is my favorite motion. I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion on the floor is to adjourn. You please call the roll.
Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman Theobald,
Yes.
Alderman Semmett,
Yes.
Alderman Sullivan,
Oh, yes.
Alderman O'Brien gives another oh yeah, and Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
You have 7-0.
Motion passes. We're adjourned at 9:18 PM.